Welcome to UPW's presentation on climate change and climate action. We at UPW collaborated with the Knitwear Lab. They're a design studio based in Amsterdam. And together we explore the key environmental issues across the globe and on all 7 continents. And just as it is a global problem, it also demands a global effort to restore what has been lost. From the seas to mountain ranges to forests, a similar story is playing out. Plagued with land degradation, depletion of natural resources, fragile biodiversities, vulnerable species, all of which places a heavy burden on our environment that will not and cannot sustain our livelihoods. It's the reason why we created the Eco Series, and it continues to spur us on in our sustainability development. And together we raise awareness that our problems and our actions are not independent from one another, but instead, these are the building blocks for a sustainable future. Each key environmental issue is paired with a swatch designed by the Knitwear Lab, and it visually and creatively depicts the theme. Our collaboration raises awareness on climate change and the need for collective climate action. We'll be covering topics such as global warming, soil health and deforestation, air and water pollution, as well as the ongoing challenges of a growing population with limited resources. So let's dive in, starting with global warming in Antarctica. One of the most prominent images that comes to mind when we hear about global warming are the melting ice sheets and glaciers. The world's largest iceberg is called A68. It weighs 1.1 trillion tons, and it broke off in 2017. Between 2009 and 2017, we've lost over 252 billion tons of ice sheets a year. There's even this growing phenomenon called the red snow effect. It's because temperatures are rising, algae grows, causing this reddening effect. And these are very visible and dramatic signs of climate change. Global warming is not just happening in the oceans, but also on land. And I want to focus on North America because it experienced aggressive wildfires throughout the states this past year in California, Colorado, and many other areas as well. Many of which took the wildfires weeks to contain. With fire tainting the skies and ashes covering homes. When this happens on your land, climate change all of a sudden doesn't feel so distant. And thankfully, it's led to policy changes, such as the Green New Deal, and most recently rejoining the Paris Agreement. The next 10 years are critical, keeping the temperature rise under a 1.5 degrees increase. This is an ambitious goal, even projected by Textile Exchange. If the industry shifts 50% of their portfolio from the conventional materials to the sustainable alternatives, this still would not be enough to meet our goal, which is why we need more robust sustainability strategies that are multifaceted. And beyond North America, in 2019, there were the devastating fires in Australia as well. Next, we move to Africa, where they have vast and rich natural resources. As manufacturing shifts from Asia to Africa, it is inevitable that their natural resources will be put at risk of mismanagement in exchange for fast growth. We've seen this time and time again for countries that have undergone industrialization. There is a real risk of soil degradation if mismanaged, and it makes the role of organic and regenerative practices that much more critical in preserving the land during this transition period. Africa is filled with stunning landscapes, and the hope is that as the needs of the industry shifts, the African countries will be able to fight to keep its natural and cherished resources. For Europe, I asked the Knitwear Lab to select a theme, which was urbanization and the challenges with overpopulation. As more and more people move to the cities, there will be less resources to support the agricultural industries as they get pushed further and further out. And the reality is, as the population grows exponentially, it will lead to increased demands and limited resources, putting a toll on our environment. And there leads and an urgent need to accelerate our sustainability practices in order to sustain a future for generations to come. Moving to Asia, Asia being a manufacturing hub, there are ongoing challenges with air and water pollution. It's almost a decade ago, I was in Beijing, China, and the PM 2.5 levels surpassed 1,000, where literally you're barely able to see the building across the street. There have been massive improvements since and cleanups and tighter regulations, but there still lies a need to find innovative solutions to combat this problem. In Southeast Asia, there's many areas that face harsh water pollutions. It's been called the colored rivers because the color changes based off of the dyes that the manufacturers are using by the day, by the week. And heavy metals and harmful chemicals enter the water streams, and they're very difficult to filter out. I chose these images because I thought they're quite powerful and fitting for what my experience was in Beijing with the air pollution. In Australia, we look at global warming and what that's caused for the unstable environments for marine life and for biodiversity in oceans. For marine life, it often can seem invisible. It's a world we rarely get to see up close unless you scuba dive. And marine biodiversity is very delicate. There's even subtle temperature changes will result in massive consequences. And the rise in temperatures have left stretches of coral dying along the reefs in Australia. And the result is very dramatic, a shift from these vibrant corals, as you see, to a deadening and dual reality. The Great Barrier Reef, it's the northeast region of Australia's coast. It contains the world's largest collection of coral reefs. But over these past 5 years, the coral life has been destroyed, and there have been temperature rises causing mass coral bleaching. The UN has warned that if the temperature rises 1.5 degrees Celsius, 90% of the world's corals will be wiped out. And finally, we move to South America and the challenges with deforestation. Generally speaking, wood is sourced responsibly in the textiles industry. It makes up about 50% of wood-based materials are responsibly sourced. However, unfortunately, wood is still being cut from ancient forests and vulnerable areas. We'll be highlighting the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. Deforestation has surged to its highest since 2008. And just last year, there was a 9.5% increase in wood taken from the rainforest. So this is an area we can and have to continue to improve upon. It can become a powerful case study for the industry to show that we are able to achieve a fiber category that is entirely sustainably sourced.
And this concludes the presentation on climate change and climate action. We do hope it gives you context on why the environmental issues are urgent to address and why UPW is taking a stance, helping to draw the connections of UPW's eco-preferred fiber and how that directly connects to each of these climate issues.
We want to thank you for listening. And we also want to thank the Knitwear Lab for collaborating with UPW to design these swatches inspired by these climate issues. If you're interested in learning more about Knitwear Lab, definitely check out their website. They are knitwear specialists combining material research with the latest knitwear trends and technologies, offering innovation with a fresh design-driven perspective, and they work with stroll machines. This concludes our presentation on climate change and climate action. We hope it's been informative in helping you understand the key global issues and that it inspires you to take steps with your company and to do it together as an industry.